Doing a private dance for a man on his stag night. All going well till an irate woman charges in. I'm in my string dress on the ground. She incoherently screams at me and Tim throws her ring at him and steals my dress and storms out. Poor dude was kinda in a daze. I'm just pissed she took my dress. I guess the wedding was off. Had a friend that wasn't satisfied with the stripper's performance. So he tossed a quarter on stage. Seemed like slow motion as I watched it bounce and hit the stage. Music skips and we are promptly tossed out. Was a bouncer bar back for a few years at a topless bar. A few fights, which you never want to happen because it bursts the fantasy bubble and everyone clears out, and lots of stripper drama between girls. Amateur night was pretty fun though. Especially seeing your old HS crushes show up and get topless. Not a bouncer or stripper, but a couple of my friends and I took my buddy to a strip club for his 21st birthday. And he goes so drunk that he puked all over the stripper's back mid-lap dance. She gave one of those slow turnarounds to face my friend followed up by look of pure death and slapped my buddy so hard that Stephen Hawking would have had a better chance of getting up and walking out of that strip club. Gotta have been a memorable moment for that stripper. Hi. Current stripper here. One of my weirdest experiences as of late was when I had a customer pay $200 plus $100 that goes to the house for 30 minutes in the VIP room. After about 5 minutes, he takes his big dig out, not a big surprise, and asks me to have sex with him. I tell him no. I don't do that. And he gets up and leaves. He still had 25 minutes left in the VIP room. But apparently it was 6 or nothing. So he got up and left. Thank God I make my customers pay up front for anything over $30. Another night a customer asked me if I was a student at the local university. I am. And asked me what I was studying. He ended up buying 5 or 6 dances just to talk to me about entomology, which is what I'm studying, and telling me how hot it was that I knew all this stuff about insects. I'm also on the ski team at my university. And I was making small talk with one customer who was in town for the weekend to go skiing. And he bought 7 dances just to sit and talk to me about proper ski boot fitting. Then he gave me an extra $50 to get custom ski boot insoles. Thanks dude. Former stripper. I had a guy buy 2 lap dances from me and spent the time in the booth holding me and massaging my back. He had just gotten out of prison where he had been for 23 years for double homicide. He insisted that he was innocent. But he witnessed it and told me a wild story about a coke-fueled car theft ring in the 80s that he was a part of. He also offered me $500 to go to his hotel room and have a bubble bath and another massage. I refused. But another girl I worked with had taken him up on a similar offer a few nights before and said, "He's really not that bad." Edit. There was another guy who liked to be called Big Daddy. He was nearly deaf and couldn't understand a single thing I said. But he would just pass me $20 bills every few minutes while I listened to him talk about his fishing tackle business. Oh. And the time a guy jizzed in his pants during a lap dance and got mad at me about it. Also. Thanks for the silver. Kind stranger. Customer came in his pants. After I kissed his erect pen 15 through his pants as a tease. I was flattered. Customers paid for a VIP dance. Just to talk. This can be torture or pleasurable depending on the guy talking. Saw a couple of guys just playing chess in the strip club. They never bought dances. The clapper, a customer would come to the stage and watch. And clap rhythmically to our stage routines. Customer brought me flowers for my birthday. Sweet gesture. I'm not a stripper but someone still tried to tip me. I know a lot of the girls that work at this one club. And has gone to visit. I was wearing a mini skirt and tank top. I walked over to a friend while she was dancing to talk and tip her. I talked to her for a few minutes while she continued to dance. Just to the right of me were a group of guys that were tipping her too. Next thing I know I feel a hand running up my leg try to put money in my underwear. I continued to talk to my friend but pushed the hand away immediately without causing a scene. I then turned to him and with a confused look he said he was just trying to tip me too. I said thank you but I don't work here. He was completely embarrassed and highly apologetic. I laughed, reassured him I wasn't offended, and walked away. Bouncer here. Had a guy have a mental break, steal a car, steal a loaded .45, and came to my bar talking about how he learned that he was God and could take anything he wanted. He proceeded to run to the back of the bar to the Christmas tree, December 2018, and start opening presents that a biker gang had left for their party that was going to happen that night. He was arrested shortly after. Edit, I know to call them motorcycle clubs now. I guess it does make sense that the word gang gives a lot of good people a bad rap as soon as you say it. Thanks for helping me learn something today everyone. Edit 2. I am a bouncer for a bar, not a strip club. Forgot to mention that. I had worked at several clubs in my area and went back to work at my favorite. First night back and things were going pretty well. I got off stage, went back to the dressing room to get a piece of pizza and sat down. One bite in and the door busts open with two bouncers carrying the limp body of a dancer. As they lay her out on the ground, they explain she's likely overdosing and the house mom and I start to tend to her. Luckily for us, we'll call this dancer Dr. Dumbus had just gotten off theater and was ready for duty. We're all like WTF, so house mom starts checking on the lifeless body laid before us. We open her eyes, shine light and there's no response. She's no longer taking breaths, has no pulse and Dumbus says she's not breathing. Let's give her water and pours water on the overdosing girl's forehead like she's the ducking pope. Housemom takes the water from her and tells me to keep an eye on the dying girl as she runs to make sure help is on the way. We can't really give her CPR as she was foaming at the mouth and didn't want to force it into her lungs. I'm a stripper, not an EMT, so I DK what to do. Finally the manager comes back and maintains the situation. Paramedics quickly get there and Pulp Fiction the sheet out of this girl's chest and give her Narcan to revive her, then take her away on a stretcher. This all happened in a period of like 5-10 minutes. But man was it wild. She survived. Also, my pizza got cold in case you were wondering. Not a dancer or bouncer. We went to a strip club for a friend's birthday. Walked out 5 minutes later because the girl on stage had cornrowed pubes. Not something I ever needed to see. I laughed. I cried. I died. That was a roller coaster of emotions right there. Former Vegas stripper here, 2004 to 2015. We used to have a guy come in and pay girls $300 to sit on his lap and fart on him. Sometimes he would want a girl to fart on his face. I never personally danced farted for him. Another dude came in and requested me for VIP. As I'm dancing for him, he just keeps sniffing handfuls of my hair. Second song in, he just tells me to let him smell my hair. Cool. Sure. $250 to sniff my hair, but then he starts this animalistic growling while snorting my ducking jufro. Creeped me out and I went back on the floor. Or what? I miss those days. Kind of related. There was a stripper doing an AMA once. I thought I'd be funny, and I'm a dad, so I told her I was refinishing an old oak table that had been painted. This was true, and how should I strip it? This girl goes into detail about a chemical stripper to buy. What kind of knife to use, plastic, to wrap it in sir and wrap for a while before scraping. Very detailed. Well, damned if she wasn't spot on. It worked like a charm. Who knew? Stripper here. Very first night stripping, some old guy in overalls with pretty poor dental hygiene asked me how many fillings I have. I told him 1. He asked if it was silver or gold. UHH. Silver. Then he asks if I will open my mouth and let him look at my teeth. I was pretty timid so I didn't. He complained it was too dark to see well. A few months later I see him again in another club, but he has a ducking flashlight this time. He tells me he wants a dance, and then when we get to the back says that he really just wants to look at my teeth. So I open my mouth and he's annoyed at my one filling and otherwise healthy teeth. He insisted I find a girl with bad teeth, so I said I'd find one and then hid in the dressing room until he left. I also used to have a regular who liked to touch my armpits and liked for me to kick him in the gonads. One time he asked me to watch porn with him. He was watching CGI porn with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, but they both had big dicks. The thing that first comes to mind is the time my friend was climbing the pole when it fell straight out of the ceiling. It fell like a tree and the H rode that thing right up until the second it was about to hit the side of the stage. Then jumped off. Landed cleanly on her 7-inch stilettos and stomped back to the dressing room. Like she hadn't just almost broken her neck. They put the damn pole back up and girls were back on it within like an hour. Not me. Though. I left and still don't trust that thing. I worked in a club that had a catwalk type addition to the stage. And at the end of it was a spinning pole. It was very poorly designed as it was not a very wide space around the pole. So the sheer amount of people I'd accidentally kick in the face while doing pole tricks is insane, and like 80% of them would apologize to me and tip me for ruining my flow. I always got a bit of a giggle about that. Also, hands down the worst was getting projectile vomited on while giving a lap dance, like butt naked. Covered head to toe in puke. And not even an apology. Oh man, this is a question I can answer. Currently a stripper. Have been for a few years. Most memorable thing was a full-out brawl involving most of the club. It was a group of douchebag customers vs some of dancers. And then eventually more people got drawn in trying to break up the fight. It was the first fight I'd been in and I will never forget it, lol. Former stripper here. I once had a guy pay for an hour in the private room. We just sat and spoke most of the time. He told me about his son who had a disability. About his wife being a full-time carer for their son and her mother, then out of nowhere he offers me $500 to dig my heels into his testicles. Another one who was a regular was a guy who liked to draw. He would always come in with a tiny scrap of paper and would sketch me. He was a really nice guy who taught me a lot about art and how to see the beauty in different things. I have to pick just one. Guy is there with his son. I finally convince him to go for a dance. We're in a spot visible from the door. Halfway through the dance, a girl plops down next to him and with a sheet-eating grin says, "Hi dad." Guy just stares at her in shock. 'Twas indeed his daughter. There with her boyfriend and friends. Dad was embarrassed for all of 2 minutes. Then moved to wanting to fight her boyfriend because he was apparently a pose? Weird. Regular customer who is a double whammy of fetishes. Wears a chastity belt with a chain to pull on it and wants you to talk about him as a puppy in third person. Very sweet man though, and tips well. I've seen my share of fights. My old home club's bouncers were short-tempered as duck. It was so common that we girls would calmly sit and watch bouncers and managers brawl with a customer down the length of the bar to remove him. I watched a manager use bouncers like mob goons and hold a guy pinned on the concrete outside until he handed over his wallet. Manager helped himself to the money owed plus $50 tip for the girl in question. It was shitty how violent they got, but at least I knew I'd get my $sign if a guy tried to dip. On that note, that club closed when a bouncer accidentally killed a man. It was really horrific and sad. Big scandal. I have stories for days, but those are what spring to mind right now. Girl had her period on stage and didn't know it. I had to put on gloves and try to sexily clean the stage without drawing any more attention to the red smeared floor. I was at a strip club once and this girl took her clothes off. It was pretty memorable. Whoa. Impressive. The unicorn of strip clubs. Drove my roommate and his wife to her audition at a strip bar in Portland, full nude. I was planning on going to hang out at a nearby store while she danced and he insisted I hang out and watch. Most awkward 20 minutes. After that I was her regular driver until she got pregnant. I lived in Portland years ago and had a friend fly out because he wanted to look for a job. He spent 5 days just sitting in nudie bars before I finally told him to go back home. More strip clubs per capita in Portland than any other city in the US. Not a security guard or stripper. But I was in Phoenix, AZ a few years ago, coincidentally during the FBS championship. I was hammered drunk and decided to go to a strip club that I saw on one of those little business cards that promoters hand out. When I was walking in, I noticed that the guys walking in front of me were Sammy Watkins and Brian Dawkins, NFL players. I said hi to them and chatted for a minute. When I went to pay my cover, the lady at the register informed me that the gentleman in front of me had already paid for me. TLDR, Sammy Watkins and Brian Dawkins paid my strip club cover. I was at a club and with a shower that was attached to the stage, and they would do shower shows every few hours or whatever. So the time comes for the next shower show and the dancer hops in and starts doing her thing. She energetically jumping up and down in the shower when all of a sudden there is a loud popping cracking sound and she was gone. The floor of the shower is gone and she had dropped under the stage. They apparently had no support under the fiberglass shower floor and it finally gave way. The poor girl was cut up pretty good from the sharp edges, soaking wet, and covered in whatever grime was under that stage. Not a stripper, but I did light one on fire once. I posted this before. About 10 years ago, me and my cousin are in the pretty shady club south of Madison, WI. We're 2 of maybe 5 people in this place, not including the dancers, so the ratio wasn't horrible. I sit down at the rail. Out came a new girl. She locks onto me because I'm the only one on the rail. Wiggles over towards me and in a flash did this flip, twist, cartwheel onto my lap. It's important to note at this time that as I was walking to the rail, I was lighting up a new cigarette. Just as I realized what was happening, I noticed my cig was gone. What I did learn that night is that big hair coated in hairspray and perfume make great kindling. Been to a strip club once. Girl on stage had a tampon string peeking out of her undies. They don't bring out the A squad on Tuesdays. As a former stripper, I gotta say this is both correct and incorrect. Correct in the sense of, yes, it's amateur hour if your string is poking out. Girl, cut the string or shove a sponge up there. You're only hurting yourself and your take home if you let on your bleeding. The exception being you'll get guys who have period fetishes. But that's for private clients. Never show that on stage. Incorrect in the sense of no matter what night you go to strip club, at least 2-4 girls are bleeding. Usually more on weekends, because more girls equals more periods. Also, side note, A-list guests don't usually come on Tuesdays either. Not a stripper bouncer. Went to a strip club for a buddy's 21st in college. The strippers learned it was his 21st, I told them, and they proceeded to take my other friend's belt, make it a leash. Had the birthday boy crawl on stage as one stripper rode him and another held the leash. Wild night. Also, the birthday boy's brother fiancé showed her tits to the strippers. We never talked about that part after. Watched a girl dance on stage wearing a white bikini, and during her routine she was on all fours with her ass to us and saw a quarter-size red dot. Equals. Watched an old man, 70s, crumple of $1s into a tiny bowl and throw them at the girls dancing. No, he didn't get kicked out. It was a slow night. Also, one girl didn't even bother to pick them up. What does the red dot mean? Sniper? Yup, sniper. The employee only Christmas party, they would bring in male strippers for the girls and have an open bar. 50+ drunk and horny strippers is a really crazy thing. Craziest thing I saw was 5 girls in the dressing room one year eating each other out in a circle. Customer here. Went to local place for my 18th F with the girls. I was so drunk I didn't want to go to the next club with my friends, so I had my boyfriend come pick me up. He waited outside so he didn't have to pay cover. Well, I fell asleep at the front door. The bouncer told 2 random guys off for attempting to drive me home, then asked me where I was going and if I not only had a way home but someone to look after me. When I said my boyfriend was outside to pick me up, he made me describe the car and the boyfriend and walked me to them before he would let me leave. Thanks for looking out for stupid drunk girls.